Hey, what's going on YouTube? I'm Tony and this is Executive Edge. This week we're going to talk about two things in employee development. One being employee improvement plans, the other being the employee performance evaluation. Being a supervisor, manager, or team leader is easy. Basically, you set your team in motion, tell them what you need done, they either do it or they don't. If they don't do it, then you get rid of those individuals and you just hire new individuals that are going to do what you tell them to do, right? Wrong. Being a supervisor, manager, or team leader, you have a lot of responsibility. You have responsibility to the employees that you supervise, and you have a responsibility to the organization that you work for. Both of these things you need to make sure work in harmony in order to keep organizational values and goals moving forward. When you have employees that are under your charge, two things that you should be doing is you need to have employee performance ratings, and when your employees are falling short of what your expectations are, you should probably institute an employee improvement plan. So what's the difference between a performance rating and an improvement plan? Well, a performance rating is something that is done either quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. What I mean by that is performance evaluation should be done every 3, 6, or 12 months after that employee has successfully completed the probationary period, and there should be one done for the employee immediately after they've successfully completed the probation period. So why do you want to give your employee performance evaluations? The purpose of a performance evaluation is so that the employee has an idea of how their progress as an employee is going, what the organizational goals are that employee needs to meet, what deficiencies, if any, the employee has, and gives the employee an opportunity to improve their performance, adjust their performance, or it shows them that they're on the right track with their performance. It also, as a supervisor, manager, or team leader, allows you to keep a record of how your employee is going, so that when something changes, you have in front of you a tool to figure out exactly what has changed. So during the employee review, you can go over the employee evaluation to make sure that both you and the employee are on the same page. Now, what happens when an employee starts to become deficient in some of their roles and responsibilities? Or what happens when that employee starts to show that they're unable to successfully complete the tasks that they usually are able to complete? At this point, you should be instituting an employee improvement plan, a personnel improvement plan, a progress improvement plan. PIP, EIP, either of those, you should take the time to sit down with the employee, outline to the employee where the employee is falling short, outline to the employee what your expectations are as a supervisor, manager, or team leader, and then also take the time to outline to that employee what the organizational expectations for that employee are. Additionally, this is the time that you find out what the reasons are that employee is not meeting whatever expectations that have been set. Is there a personal issue with the employee? Is there a training issue with the employee? Is there a disciplinary issue that you were not aware of that's going on with the employee? Or is there a lack of motivation with the employee that their progress has fallen short or failed to mature? This is the time that you sit down with that employee and you answer those questions of which category this employee fits into. And then you're going to develop your employee improvement plan around where you feel as though this employee falls. Let's say, for instance, that after reviewing your employee's performance, talking with your employee, and outlining what your employee's progress was before and up to this point, you've made the determination that your employee has fallen short in some training aspect of the job. and that is preventing them from becoming an employee in good standing. At this point, your employee improvement plan should be developed with training in mind to help retrain the employee so that they have all the training that they need to properly do their job. In a previous video, I touched on my pyramid of success. That was one of my earlier videos, and I feel as though the pyramid of success is very important to help employees reach their full potential. During the pyramid of success, it aligns with three basic principles. Employees first need to be trained. After they are trained, employees need to get reinforcement for the training that they've been given. After the employees have been trained, you've reinforced the training that you've given them, they now need to be held accountable, whether it's good or bad, for those things that they have been trained that you have reinforced. So during your employee improvement plan, you need to figure out, is this a lack of training in the aspect of they were never trained? Or did you fail to reinforce the training that they got? Maybe you failed to hold them accountable. However, doing an employee improvement plan could technically be considered holding them accountable. But if you didn't reinforce the training that they gave, you skipped a step. So holding them accountable for something that you didn't reinforce isn't fair to the employee, which means that you need to go back to step one. Motivation. Is this a motivational issue for the employee? Does this employee, have they been lacking the motivation to continue doing their job the way that they were when the probationary period was over? Maybe they feel as though they're in a dead-end job. Maybe they're unaware of what other possibilities or opportunities they may have in the organization if they stay an employee in good standing. Have you told them about other opportunities or possibilities for them to expand their knowledge? Most people want other responsibilities, they want to expand in their job, they want to feel important. At one point, you were a peer yourself. Your performance has given you the opportunity to go from peer to now supervisor or team leader or manager, which gives you the opportunity to help pass that information on. Part of you being a supervisor, manager, or team leader is to groom your employees so that in your absence, they can successfully run the job, run the organization the same way that you run the organization, and you don't miss a beat. You should be mentoring employees so that maybe one of your employees will move up one day to work in the position or the capacity that you work at. These are things that make you a successful supervisor, being able to mentor your employees. Is there a personal issue that your employee is dealing with? Maybe they're experiencing some difficulties at home. Maybe their children are not doing things at home that they should be doing, and this is stressing that employee out. Maybe their spouse and the employee are having some difficulties. All these outside things, as much as we try not to bring our home issues to work, as humans, we have a tendency to do this. If something is weighing on your mind, you're not going to be able to control whether you bring it to work or not. This can have a negative impact on your work performance. So as a good supervisor, team leader, or manager, one thing that you should consider is asking the employee, is there something going on in your personal life that might be affecting you at work? Is there anything that I can do as a supervisor? Is there anything that this organization can do to assist you so that you can be the employee that we need you to be? Find out if your organization has any resources. Many organizations have something known as the Employee Assistance Program, or EAP, and many of these programs will align employees with services to assist them with things that they're going through in their personal lives. Check into this, see if your organization has one of these things. You're not out of line to suggest that your employee maybe talk to somebody if they're having some difficulties. You need to make sure that you have empathy as a supervisor. When you have empathy, this means that you are putting yourself in your employees' shoes as far as their feelings, and you are understanding how dealing with something personally can affect them at work. Finally, last but not least, is this a disciplinary problem? In many cases, when it comes to discipline, the immediate supervisor, manager, or team leader does not have the ability to handle disciplinary problems on their own. It's not as simple as, okay, this doesn't work anymore. You're not a good fit for this company. You're not a good fit for this organization. You can clear out your desk and don't come back. There's all sorts of legal ramifications that you need to take into consideration. Many times, that's something that your human resources department will handle. However, if this is a disciplinary issue, then you need to make sure that you have the concrete information that points you towards this being a disciplinary issue. The next step of the employee improvement plan, whether it's disciplinary, training, motivation, or a personal problem, is that you need to give that employee a time period as to when you expect them to bring their performance back up to the standard that you're expecting. Now, this time period typically should be roughly around 90 days or 3 months. This gives you the opportunity to have frequent check-ins within that time period, making sure that as long as they are showing improvement, you space out these check-ins a little further away from each other, so that way this shows the employee that you are checking on their progress, and with you backing away from your frequent check-ins, it's showing the employee that you're giving them the respect that they can work autonomously without you being over their shoulders. So assuming that you're giving them a 90-day period to improve performance. One way that you can do this is, we're going to develop a plan. This is where I need you to be at the end of this 90-day period. For the first 30 days during this 90 days, we're going to check in with you on a weekly basis. Either at the end of the week, the beginning of the week, middle of the week, whenever you and the employee feels though will work best to monitor that employee's progress. So with successful progress, after that first 30-day period, you're going to start stepping it back. So now instead of checking in on the employee on a weekly basis, you're going to check in on the employee on a bi-weekly basis. So if you checked in on the employee every Friday for the 30 days before that, during this period, you're going to check in on the employee every other Friday. You're going to make sure that that employee is still showing progress, find out if the employee has any questions that they need to bring to you, and adjust the employee improvement plan as necessary if it needs to be adjusted. You'll know if it needs to be adjusted if the employee either stays stagnant or fails to show improvement. Finally, if they're showing improvement during phase 1, which is the first 30 days, then phase 2, which is the second 30 days, by the third 30 days, you can do something as simple as tell them, okay, I'm going to just check in on your progress twice during this last 30 days. Maybe you'll do it within the first week, maybe you'll do it within the last week, but it doesn't have to be a structured when you're going to check on them. As long as you check on that employee, and as long as the employee is showing improvement, everything is fine. You need to also make sure that you give feedback to the employee. Feedback is very important. You need feedback as a supervisor to make sure that you're doing your job correctly. Therefore, your employees need to have feedback as employees to make sure that they're continuing to do their jobs to the best of their ability. You can't expect an employee to improve their progress if they have no idea how their progress is. YouTube, that's it for this week. We talked about developing an employee improvement plan. We briefly touched on employee evaluations, and we'll get deeper into employee evaluations in upcoming videos and outline certain things that should be evaluated during your employee evaluation period. So until next week and next subject, make sure you smash the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. We have content coming out on a regular basis, and I look forward to talking to you. Also, if there's a topic or a question that you have, make sure you leave a comment. And I will definitely get back to you and address it in a future video. Until then, I'm Tony. This is Executive Edge. Keep being a great supervisor.